just get this onto YouTube. All. That's it. Oh, lovely to be with you all. Right. Okay. Now, hopefully this will work better than it worked last time. We had a bit of a difficulty last time, but let's hope it works okay this time. All right then. So we can start and everybody else will join, hopefully. I'm just going to start off with a prayer. All right, so let me just share that. There we are. All right then. So on this Chanukah, when the few defeated the many, and God helped us, I want to daven, I want to pray that our learning should bring light to the holy soldiers who are fighting for us in Gaza and who are on the northern border, protecting us. They're away from their families. And we really want to thank them and we really want to bless them, that the angels should be guarding them and giving them their light and bringing them the victory that we need, that the victory of the light over the darkness. Amen. And I want to also pray that the light of Chanukah should surround and protect the hostages. ריבונו עולמים ואדוני אדונים, אף רחמן וסליחות, מודים אנחנו לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, וכידה בשטח הוויה, שקרבתנו לתורתך ולעבודתך עבודת הקודש, ונתת לנו חלק בסודות תורתך הקדושה, מה אנו ומה חיינו, אשר עשית עמנו, חסד גדול כזה, על כן אנחנו מפילים תחנוננו לפניך, שתמחול ותסלח לכל חטאותינו ועוונותינו, ועל יהיו עוונותינו מבדילים בינינו לבינך, וכן יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהינו ולאבותינו, שתכונן את לבבינו ליראתך ולבבך, ותקשיב אוזניך לדברינו אלה, ותפתח לבבינו הערל בסודות תורתך, וללימודנו זה נחת רוח, לפני כיסא כבודך, קרח ניחוח, ותציל עלינו, אור מקור נשמתנו בכל בחינתנו, שיתנוצצו ניצוצות עבודך הקדושים, אשר על ידם גלית דבריך אלה בעולם, וזכותם, וזכות אבותם, וזכות תורתם ותמימותם וקדושתם, יעמוד לנו לקשר בדברים אלו. ובזכותם תראינן במה שאנו לומדים, כמאמר נעים זמירות ישראל, גל עיניי והביט הנפלאות מתורתך, כי אדוני תן חוכמה מפיו דעת ותבונה, ולראות צאני מפי, וגאון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי וגואלי. Amen. Can you rachon? So welcome to everybody who's all just joined. Lovely to see you all. It really is. Let me just open. I had it opened, all the material, and then I must have by accident switched it off. So never mind, I can open it again quickly. Here we are. Now, share. Here it is. This is an absolutely wonderful article, which is from Rabbi Ashlag's work. And it's the ner, the shemen, and the patila. So this is the components of the candle. What is the candle, the Chanukah candle, actually composed of? So if you think about a candle in the olden days, okay, it would have been made up of a vessel, okay, a clay vessel, all right, and it would have had a little hole at the front for the wick to go in, and it would be filled up through the bigger hole in the candle with oil, all right? So it'd be a clay container with a wick and oil, all right? So those are the components of a candle. And the Chanukah, the menorah, which stood in the Beit HaMikdash, was actually this, the 7 branches, and on the top of the 7 branches, the candles, that is to say, these jars, these sort of containers, clay containers, not jars, sorry, clay containers would be situated on top, would be put on top of the branches. Okay, so that is actually what we're talking about when we're talking about a candle. So Rabbi Ashlag is going to look at this candle. What is a candle from within ourselves? All right, and I think it's an absolutely fascinating article. I'm sending you my blessings for Chanukah. May it be God's will that we should merit to feel the light of Chanukah in our heart. And in this way, our eyes should be enlightened and our heart rejoice. So now I want to write to you what I said regarding Chanukah. Now, it's known that it's impossible for the candles to give out their light unless they have three conditions met. One, you've got to have the vessel, okay, in which you can put the oil. That's called the ner in Hebrew. Two, you've got to have the oil, the shemen, that's the oil. And three, you have to have the wick, the petila. And it's only when these three things are all joined together or united together, then it's possible to enjoy the light of the candle. But we can actually look at these three aspects by way of our inner work and our ethics. So if we're looking at the vessel, at the light of the candle as regards ourselves, like if we were the candle, okay? So the vessel which you put the oil and the wick would be our body, okay? Our body contains everything in it, okay? Our body aspect, our personality, our emotions, our mental aspect, and also the soul, okay? Contains all within the body. V'nikra ner, and so that would be called the ner, the container, all right? Vayigia b'Torah mitzvot, and the work in Torah and mitzvot. Vastirot mashadam margish b'hashgachato yitbarach, and the contradictions and difficulties that a person feels in God's divine providence. B'dvarim she'einam megulim lefanav, in the fact that it is not revealed to us, that the divine providence, that the way the world runs is really in the aspect of God is good and does good. And in a person's mind and view, God should be running the world in a totally different way. It should be clearly manifest to every single person the measure of God's goodness. We find that God's goodness, or the way God manages the world, is in complete contradiction to the way we think it should be managed. Zenika ptila is called the wick, okay? Milashon ptaltul, from the language of ptaltul. Ptaltul means something which is not straight, something which is sort of winding around, okay? Going something, something which is crooked, not going straight, okay? And Rabbi Ashlag, because he came from an Ashkenazi background, I think he was born, he was born in Poland. He says it's also like the language psula, which was, it's not really, psila is how you would say it in Ashkenazi accent. So, but he relates it to machshavot ka'ele psulot lemachshava. And thoughts like this are actually thoughts which are not beneficial for us to think in certain ways. Okay. They belong to the other side. They lead us into thinking, into believing that God's providence is not good. Or we think that it would be better if God ran the world in a way that his goodness was obvious. I mean, I'm quite sure that all of us on the shiur today have difficulties with what's been happening. I mean, the dreadful, dreadful, dreadful torture that the poor people in the communities on the south suffered on Simchat Torah, it just doesn't bear thinking about. I know that, they're getting more and more testimonies as to what actually happened. And I mean, it's just beyond appalling. And and we say to God, are you sure? Okay. But that's the ptulah. That's that thought is a real thought. It's a genuine thought. It's a genuine question. Okay. And I think we do need to ask those questions. And then, as we're going to see, we have the work to do to go above those questions into faith. All right. But you can't ignore the question, and you can't ignore other people's pain and pretend it's not there. It is there. It's very real. And the pain of the hostages, the ones who were released, what they went through, and the ones who are not released yet, and the pain of the families, just to go, mamash, in faith. And you say to God, no, is this the way I would run the world? And we've all got these questions. And this is the ptilah, this is the wick, okay, which ultimately is going to bring the light. So let's go and see how these questions, how these thoughts are actually ultimately going to help us come to the light. Because remember, we said we need three things. We need the actual candle. We need the oil, and we need the wick. Okay, and these thoughts is the wick. So how can this be? And the answer is like this. Rabbi Gottlieb writes like this. These remarks in the bottom here are from Rabbi Gottlieb. They're absolutely brilliant. Let me zoom in here and can read it together with me. Nimtza shetzarich psila. He says it turns out that we need these negative thoughts. ואחר כך אדם עושה ביקורת על עצמו, ומתבייש איך חשב מחשבות כאלו לגבי הקדוש ברוך הוא. And it's only after we've thought them that we can sort of look at ourselves and say, well, I feel a bit ashamed that I thought thoughts that God could be possibly not good or acting not good regarding Hashem. He begins to ask himself, how did I think such a thing? How did I get caught up in these suffering, in these thoughts? He feels embarrassed, he feels ashamed, he feels worried that he thinks like this, he's not sure what he thinks. Okay. And he doesn't want to think any more thoughts like this regarding HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I have to say that, the people of Israel are, to me, incredibly ever-inspiring. I happened to see an interview yesterday on, I think it was Arutz 14. I don't watch Arutz 14 particularly, but I happened to just come across it. It was a mother of a son who was kidnapped. He must be, I think, in about his 21, something like that. And she was talking about what she feels about the circumstance that he is a hostage in Gaza, and she doesn't know what's happening to him. And she spoke with such emunah, with such faith, not the faith that no matter what the circumstances, God will do the right thing by him. She's not a religious woman by her outer appearance, and doesn't look particularly religious in the photos that were given. But the spirit of emunah, which just went right through her words and her whole being, was so extraordinary, absolutely amazing. And I felt really ashamed because I thought to myself, if this woman in those circumstances can display this emunah, then, why should I be questioning? So what we see here now is that on the one hand, we have these questioning thoughts, all right? And then we can put them together, we can correct them, we can say, wait a minute, where's my faith? All right. And it's a struggle. I think it's a struggle. All right. But a person eventually, through Torah and mitzvot, through his faith, he doesn't any want to think negative thoughts about God. So now he feels, I need to go to the Torah. I need the inspiration. I need the illumination. I need the clarity of the faith to get me back on the right track, which I can get from Torah. And in this way, it can settle back his mind, settle back his thoughts, settle back his feelings, okay, and be back in line, back on track, all right? So what do we find? We find that it was just those negative thoughts, those questions, okay, that actually helped him, inspired him to go and search again in Torah, looking for that light of Torah, looking for that light of faith, okay, to help him come back and into his connection with God. So just as we have in physicality, that the candlelight depends on the wick, so in spirituality, the light of Torah is actually brought into focus, into reality, is held by these negative thoughts, which we all fall into human beings, especially when we're in these very difficult times. And what's the oil? The light of Torah. So here we have the three components. We have the body, our person, our being, our self is a container in which all this is happening. Okay. And the second thing that is happening, and the second thing is the negative thoughts, all right, which are acting as the wick, and the work that we do against those negative thoughts, all right. And then finally, the oil itself, which is the light of the Torah. Okay. Let's go back now to Rabbi Ashlag. And the clarity and the awakening which brings him to desire the Torah and the work, and to feel the sweetness and the pleasantness, Torah, which is in Torah, and which is in the work. This is the oil, all right? So that longing for Torah, that awakening that Torah, it came about because he's looking for answers, he's looking for help, he's looking for that faith, comes from the Torah, and this is the oil. And if one of these aspects is missing, then there's no ability to enjoy the light of the candle. All right, so you've got to have all three components. Okay? So far, so good? כמו כן, כאן, בזמן שהגוף כלול מגיע, likewise here, when the guf, that's the body, our being, is composed of not just the negative thoughts, but also the work that we do against them. And the clarity of that comes through our search in Torah, for our looking in Torah, for our looking in prayer, to bring us to that faith. Those are the components that we need to attain the light of God. Which comes out between both the work and the Torah and the light of the Torah. Let's see what here, this one resh is also interesting. Okay. We have here the right-hand side and the left-hand side. The right-hand side is the fulfillment. The left-hand side is the wick. Okay. So the questions that we ask. So the left-hand side is the wick, is the questions and the doubts and the difficulties and the why God's providence is so difficult to understand, okay? And it's so hard to believe in his goodness, all right? And yet, if we can do that work, and we do try to overcome our disbelief, and we look for the Torah to inspire us and to bring us to the right way, then on the right-hand line, we get the beauty of the faith from the Torah. And the right-hand line and the left-hand line have between them the bride. What's the bride? The light of the Holy Shekhinah. וכמו שלאחר שנשרפים השמן, בפתילה אין כבר במעלה עיר ונעשה חושך. Now, once the oil and the wick are all burnt up, there's no more light, okay? And we now have darkness. כמו כן, לאחר שנגמרות היגיע והבהירות, אנו כבר אור ונעשה שוב חושך אצלו. Likewise, it works like that for ourselves as well. I'm sure you've noticed this. We go up and down like yo-yos in our spiritual life, okay? It's not plain sailing for anybody, all right? We have moments when we're enlightened, moments when we can see the right way, we can go forwards, and we have moments when, quite honestly, we're flat on the floor, all right? And we have lots of times in between, all right? And it's just like the candle, all right? When the wick and the oil are used up, we're back down in the dark, all right? So we've used up this quota of labor, we've used up this quota of clarity that we've got from the Torah, and we're going to have to begin again, all right? If we want to get light again, then again we need to find more work, all right? What does it mean to find more work? Okay, we have to look for more negative thoughts? In a way, yes, all right? I don't mean we need to ask for things, God forbid, for dreadful things to happen on the outside. Absolutely not. But cheshbon nefesh, just self-accounting, is usually enough, okay, to find the dark places within ourselves, okay, and to try to work with them to bring light to them, all right, through the light of Torah. So we can do that self-searching, that soul-searching ourselves. And if we do, then God doesn't need to bring these dreadful circumstances and force it on us. Now, of course, you all remember, everybody remembers, the dreadful year that we had in Israel before Simchat Torah. And if we had done that work then, all right, of finding, not looking and poking our fingers in other people's eyes, but looking and seeing where we ourselves aren't right. And if everybody on both sides had done that, for 1000% sure, this would not have happened. But if it has happened, then we can learn from it, okay? And the answer is like this, is that right now, Am Yisrael is united, and we're filled with faith, we're filled with purpose, and this is wonderful. Baruch Hashem, it lasts a very long time. And when we don't have that anymore, we're not going to fall back into yelling at other people and wondering. We do our own work. That's what it's about. It's working with our wick, working with the patila, working with our own negative thoughts, and not imaging them onto somebody, projecting them onto somebody else. Okay, so that's the work we do, because the connection doesn't last. It lasts as long as the wick and the oil are present, and then it dies down again. And that's a natural process that happens with candles, and it happens in our spiritual life as well. So once we've done that work again, our inner work again, then we can get more clarity again, go up another level, get more light, okay, go to another stage of light. Unless we have that, because we need those questions, we need the doubts, we need the difficulties, and we need to work with them, and then there's something for the light to hold on to. And the reason being is, there's a general rule, for every trouble, you get a reward. That's from Pirkei Avot. Okay? V'ikar behirut hanikra shemen hu al yedei emunah. Now, Rabbi Ashlag teaches us something really, really dramatic. That the main clarity, which we call the oil, that we get from the Torah, which we get from the prayer, is through faith. A friend of mine, a Chavruta, lent me a wonderful booklet, which a group of women in Efrat studied the aspect of faith for 2 years, I think it was. And in this booklet, there's incredible readings from all sorts of different sages on the issue of faith. And I read one of them last night, and I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the rabbi it was from, but he said, and this is absolutely echoed in Rabbi Ashlag's writings as well, that the ikar of Yahadut, the main aspect of Judaism, is faith. Faith in God, that he is good and that he does good. And our main practice of Judaism is through faith. That's the number one mitzvah. And if you look at the Zohar, in the end of the first volume, you find that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai looks at 14 root mitzvot. And these 14 root mitzvot, are the main mitzvot of the Torah, and all the other mitzvot are like branches of them. And the root mitzvah of the Torah is emunah. The very first one is emunah. Okay, so faith that God is, and that he is good and does good. And the issue of faith is, ma shemitgabel hayetzer hara, hamavio lidei yegiot v'stirot, l'sechel hachitzoni. And it's our faith in God which is able to deal with these questions and difficulties that we have in our belief in God's providence. We when we say, are you good? What's happening? Okay. And these trials that we have in our service for God, they come about because we're using our external mind, our rational mind, okay? And the way to overcome our rational mind is through faith. ואחרי ההתגברות הזו, אדם זוכה לקבל את אור השם המאיר לנשמת אדם. So once we sort of do this work, then we merit to receive the light of God, which illuminates the soul. And when that's actually happened, then again, there's no room for doubt, there's no room for contradictions. And this is, for example, the light of Chanukah. The light of Chanukah was when we merit to open, clear manifestation of God's providence. And it's the light of Chanukah that we see that God's providence is in the aspect of he is good and he does good to all created beings. So far, so good. Has anybody got any questions? If you have, just call out. ובזה יש לפרש מה שאמרו ז"ל בנר חנוכה. And in this way, we can now explain what the sages have said regarding the Chanukah candle. Mitzvata mishtashakea hachama ad shetachale regel min hashuk. When do we light the Chanukah candle? We light the Chanukah candle. The commandment is to light it from the time when the sun is set until the last person, regel, has left the shuk, has left the marketplace. All right? What does it mean? Sharamzu b'zeh oder chanan. Hama, the sun, which is a light which gives light, the illumination. Okay, it's the light of God. It's the sun is like the hint for the light of God. Regel is, we said person, the last person leaves the foot, but leaves the market. But the actual word regel means foot, and it's also connected with the word meraglim. Meraglim is spies. Okay, what does a spy do? We all have this within us as well. When we spy out to see God's providence, as it's written about the spies who wanted to look, who came to spy in the land of Israel. You looked at the land and you saw the land. What is it? Is it good or is it bad? That is, when we look to see, is God's providence in the world, is it good or bad? Is it really in the aspect of he is good and does good? Shuk, the marketplace, is the domain of many. And it's in the domain of many that we find the spies. Now, what's the domain of many when we're talking about ourselves? We're talking about the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer HaTov. We're talking about two domains, all right? We shouldn't, okay, we're saying, okay, there's my Yetzer Hara and there's my Yetzer HaTov. There's my body, there's my soul, there's my will to receive for myself alone, there's my will to give. There is my ego and there is God, okay? So my ego thinks this and God is doing something else, okay? That's the domain of the many. Masha Enkein, and this is not the case. When a person merits to come into the domain of the single, that there is no other power in the world, only God is on his own, himself. Because he alone did, does, and will do all deeds. And in this case, there's no more place for the spies to be. So let's just look how Rabbi Gottlieb comments on this. Reish Daled and Reish Hey. That's right. In reality, in physicality, sorry, a spy, what is a spy? He goes to two different states, okay? He works between two different states. He let's say he's French and he's spying on the Germans, okay? So he's moved over to Germany to spy what the Germans are doing, okay? In other words, he wants to see what's happening by the other guy. But all in one state, there's nothing to spy on because you're all there. Sikum. Wait a minute. Oh, no, not to Sikum yet. We need to bring the light of Chanukah, that it would shine with the understanding of the divine providence, that he is good and does good, from the time when the sun has set to the time when the last spy has left the marketplace. That is to say, even when a person is still in the time of darkness, until all aspects of his inner spies have left him, okay, that there will no longer be any aspect of himself wanting to spy and to find out if God's providence really is good or not. Okay, Rabbi Ashlag has got a nice explanation here. Summary. There is a circumstance where a person does not believe that the Holy Blessed One is at all looking after the creation, okay? Because of the tremendous wrong things that he sees in creation, all right? For example, where a person believes that what happened on Simchat Torah was through a mistake in the Israeli intelligence, and that it was through the dreadful desires of Hamas, and that God, in fact, had nothing to do with it. Okay, it was all explainable by failure on the intelligence of the Israeli part and the appalling ideology and barbarism of Hamas. Okay, or okay, one could say that that is true, but the one who was manipulating everything behind the scenes was God. All right. So one could also say that God was present, okay, but it's still not clear. All right. Only when a person is truly clear that it is only God, and there's only Reshut HaYachid, that only God is functioning, and he believes that every aspect of what we saw is for good, okay? That's when the spies have left. But in the meantime, we tend to do what we saw, go forwards and backwards, all right? So the time of the Chanukah candle needs to be lit, all right, when we're in this time when we're going forwards and backwards, all right, like we said earlier, it's our doubts cause our work to do in Torah that brings the light, okay, and then we lose it again, and then we try again, all right, and again we work, we find the Torah, we get inspiration, and we lose it again. And it's during this period that the time of the Chanukah candle is our inner Chanukah candle. It needs to be lit. Now, where were we? Here we go. Now, Rabbi Ashlag is going to explain it from what we sing in Ma'ut. And in this way, we can explain what we say in the song Ma'ut. Yevanim nikpatsu alai, azai bimei hashmanim. So the Yevanim gathered together in the days of the Hashmonaim, and they burst through the walls of my towers and made unclean all the oil. The wall is the same letters as a seal. Chomat is the same letter as chotam, and the same letter as tchum, which is a defined area. Migdalai, my towers, is the Migdal Malei Kol Tuv, is a tower filled with all good. This is a Kabbalistic idea or symbol which represents all the good that God wants to give us. So what is the wall? What did they burst? They burst the wall. What is the wall? The guarding, our inner guarding, that no strange thought should come into our inner city to despoil its goodness. That means that we're not wanting to let these foreign thoughts, these negative thoughts, these unwanted ideas to come in and ruin our connection with God. So how do we stop that? We need to make an inner wall, all right, to guard ourselves from these external influences. And this wall, I don't mean we shouldn't look at the news. I mean that when we should look at the news, we need to do it with the awareness that it's God who's moving everything, all right? Of course, we need to know what's going on, all right? Especially if you live in Israel. Of course, you have to know what's happening. We have to be, not only that, we also have an obligation to participate in the sorrow of the community. We have to know, we have to pray for each other. We have an obligation to mourn with each other. We have an obligation to take part. So I don't mean when we make a wall around to keep out reality. What I mean is that we make our wall is a wall of faith. In other words, our wall means that whatever we see, we remember to realize that it's God behind the scenes and that there is good and does good. And I'm not in any way saying that this is easy, all right? And I fall down on this 5 million times a day. I was at Telstone on Shabbat, and I had the privilege of being with Rabbi Gottlieb. And at the learning, there was a shiur at the learning, and we were talking about that every single aspect that we experience is in the Ein Sof. And I asked a question, and I said, listen, and I can accept that I can accept most things that are in the Ein Sof, okay, but how can I possibly say that these, barbarians, I can't call them, I don't know what you call them, the Hamas people, they're not human beings, I don't know what you call them, degenerates. These complete degenerates, they're also in the Ein Sof. And we did have to say that how difficult though it is, we had to say that ultimately everything is in the Ein Sof, and we don't understand it. Rabbi Gottlieb compared it to a bunch of olives. Okay, Israel is also compared to a bunch of olives, and he says if you want to make olive oil from the olives, you need a very heavy stone to squidge the olives with. So he said, if you were to see the olives being pressed by the stone and seeing the olive oil come out, you would understand the whole process without any problem whatsoever. But when you see just the stone and you hear the cry of the olives and you don't yet see the olive oil, then he says that's the reason why we find the questions about God's goodness so very difficult. Anyhow, that was his answer. All right. So in order to prevent these foreign thoughts and desires, which we, come into our minds, we need to make a wall around, okay? And this wall is called faith. Okay? So we need to say, okay, God, I don't understand what's happening. I don't see how this is good, but I have to believe that through faith, we can actually believe that whatever is happening is good, and you are going to bring the good through it. You're going to bring the good, and somehow or other it is good in ways that we cannot see. Rabbi Gottlieb also confessed that at the shiur that he also had difficulty with this. So everybody has difficulty with it, but this is the way of emunah. And I really do feel that that woman on the program who talked about her son and her faith in God, that what was happening was okay, was somehow or other it was going to be okay. Not going to be okay. She understood that he was in danger of his life, but that it was okay in the ultimate sense. That to me was amazing. So when we make that wall of faith around, we're basically saying the external thoughts cannot come in. All right. And what actually happens is that when the kind of like these thoughts, we put them in their place and we don't allow them in, after a bit, they stop trying. The reason being, kinyan emunah hu davka lamala me'adat, and because faith itself is above knowledge, and the governance of the sitra achra, of the will to receive for ourselves alone, the governance of these negative thoughts, is within knowledge, which is our external mind. And in truth, that external mind does not have any real connection with our soul. Okay? Our soul can use it for its purposes, but it does not have true connection with who we really are. So what we need to do is we need to connect with the faith, and we can go from there. Somebody put something in the chat. Where can I find that clip? Oh, the bit about the do you mean that the mother and the son? Yeah. Okay, I'll see if I can find it. All right. And if I can, I'll stick it on the WhatsApp group. All right. No problem. Okay. It was on channel 14. I'll look for it for you, love. Okay, because I found it amazingly. She was amazing. Okay, Klipat Yavan, the Klipa of the Greece. The Klipa of Yavan, of the Greeks, the Hellenizers, was that they really wanted that the people of Israel should conduct their lives through logic, rationale, external logic. She had philosophia arura, which is the cursed philosophy, writes Rabbi Ashlag, neged ha'emunah, because it is against faith. I think, quite honestly, we're still fighting that same battle right now. Okay? We're still on that fight. Chanukah is still with us. All right? What needs to be is that the soul needs to dominate the external knowledge, rationale, and not the other way around. Rabbi Ashlag is not suggesting here that we, cut our heads off and just sort of wander around without the great, incredible gift that God gave us through our mind. He gave us a rational mind. He gave us logic. He gave us this wonderful way of seeing the world. It's given us science. It's given us so much. It's given us all the technology we've got. It's given us so much incredible. It's given me the ability to give a shiur over the internet to people who are physically very distant. Okay, so we've got, you know, this incredible external mind, but it should not replace our faith. And on the contrary, our faith is above it. It needs to be controlling the external mind, not the other way around. That's what it means. Okay? Only to the extent that they managed to bring this Greek philosophy. What was the Greek philosophy? That the external mind is more important than faith. Okay, that was the problem. To that extent, they made a breach in the wall. Okay? Our external mind is wonderful about the how to do things. But the why we do things needs to be accordant to the Torah of Israel. There's a wonderful saying which says, Chochmat goyim ta'amim, Torat goyim al ta'amim. Okay, the wisdom of the nations, yes, you should use it. You should believe it. It's fine. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, it's based on rational. It's based on logic. It's based on the way the external observation of how the world runs. Yeah, that's fine. Torat goyim, but the Torah of the rest of the world, al ta'amim, don't believe it. In other words, don't believe the external mind as a Torah. Okay, God forbid. The way of Israel is the way of emunah, is the way of faith. Only when we guard our faith can that tower of all good be present for us, because then that tower of all good is shining and we're able to attain the complete and real understanding of God's providence, that he really does conduct the world in that aspect of he is good and does good. Okay. What happened in the days of the Maccabees, that there was a breach in the wall of faith of the Jews of the time. We see the same breach also happening in our time, and all the oil got uncleaned, defiled. And what does that mean in our inner work? It means that all the clarity and life force that they got through faith was blocked. Tum'ah is defiling. It's from the language of timtum and situm. Timtum means feeling stupid, like you've been, dulled, and situm blocked. Until a nace happened. What was the miracle? That the Holy Blessed One, they found the card, they found the pitcher of oil, okay? They found their emunah again. The oil is the emunah. They found their oil again. And God, the Holy Blessed One, helped them to look for the oil, to find it, and merited them again to the light of revelation, which is the conscious experience of the light of God within. That's the light of Chanukah. Okay. All right, my dear friends, what an extraordinary privilege to learn an article about Chanukah on Chanukah with you. Isn't that wonderful? Baruch Hashem, thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, it's really, really lovely
Thank
to have
you, Yedida, for learning. We can't wait until you come back home.
Yes, yes, yes.
I know. Well, I'm here because my family want me here, to be honest. But as soon as they get fed up of me, I'm coming back to Tzfat.
But are you planning ever to come back?
What?
Are you planning to come back sometime?
Yes, I absolutely am. When I can convince my family that I would be okay here. It's an awful
It's
noise.
wonderful to learn with you online, but there's nothing like learning with real life.
I know. I lack the hug, to be honest.
Yes.
I could do with a hug.
Yeah. Chanukah Sameach, everybody, and Shabbat Shalom.
Chanukah Sameach, everybody.
Chanukah Sameach.
Chanukah
Chanukah
Sameach.
Sameach. Thank you so much.
Sameach.
And Shabbat
Wonderful.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom and Chanukah Sameach, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.
You do that?
Yeah.
It's a very bad echo.
Hello?
Yeah. Hi. Everything else is not muted?
There's the most awful background noise. I can't hear very well.
Everybody, and then we'll...
Sorry?
Can you mute everybody? And then we'll try again.
It's very distorted. Could you write in the chat? Because I can't actually hear. Lovely to be with you.
Oh.
Oh, great. I don't know what happened, but it suddenly got better. Let's hope it works.
One of the people that were on left. So that was where this noise was coming from.
All right then. Oh, I don't know. It must have been from somebody. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. My daughter wanted to ask you a question, or she wanted to say something. First of all, I really enjoyed your speech, so I want to thank you so much. It's my English birthday. I'm curious, and if you ever heard anything about English birthday, does it have a special mazel just like the Hebrew, or is it different than the Hebrew birthday? But I wanted to share. Yesterday, I was.
Well, 1 second. There is something going on, which I could bring the lights. Oh, I see. It's kind of started to replay on the YouTube. How annoying! 1 minute. Let me. I'm not on the northern border, protecting us away from. Yeah, I can hear myself talking. No wonder I can hear.